From one day to the next, what I'll be testing, which is kind of interesting to me. It's, every day's a new day. And so I still got stuff in boxes in my house and or apartment, rather. I don't have a house anymore. And a new job where I know about half the people there now. And it's a nerd fest. It's also a sausage fest, unfortunately. But it's weird, though, working with, because I worked in factories where I was quality control, and I was sort of the smartest guy in the room. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, and that's not always true, but with a lot of it was just sort of working class guys that made stuff, and I was the scientist guy. This new job, everybody I work with is a scientist. And some of them are more credentialed, way more than I am. The two owners of the company are PhD chemists. So it's very weird being in a room full of people with IQs at least as high as mine or higher. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's
Rob, I understand that completely.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Right.
Yep. It's something I deal with on a daily basis.
So it's interesting. Working for a PhD who works for a PhD who works for a PhD. But it's I've got 6 months to prove myself and the job becomes permanent. But I will say this: I really like my insurance, so I hope I get to keep it.
Right on.
This case and this celebration are all about individuals growing medical marijuana. The court found it can be done safely and securely with limited risk.
It's also a question of knowing what's in your medicine, being able to control what's in your medicine, and being able to determine what works for you.
This ruling gives the federal government 6 months to come up with new legislation for homegrown medical pot. The health minister says she wants to be clear. This ruling isn't a green light for all Canadians to start planting pot.
I would like to, in that line, also make sure that people understand that the ruling today is not associated with the matter of recreational marijuana and the legalization thereof.
Elsewhere on Parliament Hill, the talk was all about legalization.
And to regulate.
Taking the lead on the pot file, MP and former Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair, who seemed happy enough to chat with pro-pot activists, but was quick to warn that right now pot remains illegal.
Until those laws are repealed by Parliament through the appropriate processes, then they should be upheld, they should be obeyed, and they should be enforced.
And how long would it take to consult and write a new law? Blair wouldn't even promise it could be done in this mandate.
We're working diligently on it. We're going to take the time to do it right.
Will it take more than 4 years?
I'm not going to speculate.
There's got to be some sort of time.
But again, I'm not prepared simply because I don't have the information to provide you with a definitive answer on how long things will take. And I apologize. I got to go.
The group that represents Canada's police chiefs says the government's facing some big expectations about legalization, which it could calm with a little more information.
So people could understand maybe what the timelines might be and how we're going to go about this. Because right now I think it's just a big fog.
Blair acknowledged today that people around the world are watching to see how Canada goes about legalizing marijuana. They're watching in Canada, too, where there's potentially a lot of money at stake. We learned today that several big pharmacy chains are already interested in selling medical marijuana.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
Okay, so I was just, before we get into the medical part where people are allowed to grow it now, just in case Stephen or anybody else doesn't know, the new Prime Minister is planning to legalize it. It's taking longer than the citizens would like. Obviously, they want it done straight away because people are still being arrested and incarcerated for no reason whatsoever. They've already promised that they're going to legalize it recreationally, so that's kind of what the talk about legalization was. It's not as fast as what people would like. People have asked for it to be decriminalized. They've kind of said no to decriminalization, but the Harper government had made it illegal for people that had prescription for marijuana to grow personal plants in their home so that they know where their medicine was coming from. Because in Canada, we don't have the same kind of medical marijuana dispensaries that you guys have down there. So you could have a medical prescription for marijuana, but you still may have to buy it from a drug dealer under the Harper government. So it's been repealed in the Supreme Court of Canada that you are now allowed to grow medical marijuana in your home. And I'm all for it. I'm not a smoker myself, but I think it's awesome that they've made it so.
Yeah, I'm all for legalizing marijuana, but to be honest with you, it's if you're going to be using something for medical use, I think that having a metered dose from a responsible producer rather than growing it yourself is a better idea. I wouldn't recommend you grow other plants for medical use because you never know how much active ingredient is in a leaf, for instance. Mm-hmm. So but on the other hand, I think it's perfectly fine to use marijuana recreationally. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with that. Frankly, I think it's better for you than drinking.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'd actually, and I know you take a personal stance on, Prof, is that, whenever it comes to the supplements and or vitamin or whatever you want to talk about here in the United States, the regulation is the thing that makes a medicine a medicine.
Right.
That's the reason why the supplements aren't held to the same standard that, any other real medicine, in quotation marks, well, I shouldn't say quotation marks, every other medicine has to be, have these huge multi-million-dollar studies done on them.
Yep.
Why not do the same thing with marijuana? It's already been done, but
yep.
Why have marijuana and THC a Schedule I drug?
Shouldn't be. There should be drug companies producing marijuana for use.
The part of the reason why it's taking so long, Jonathan, is the regulations, because they don't just Trudeau has come out and said that he doesn't just want to legalize it and have it be a free for all. They want to restrict it from people under the age of whatever, 18 or 19,
which
whatever.
Is I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
And they're going to restrict quantities, so you can't buy it here in mass amounts and then sell it, say in the UK.
So you mean the same thing as alcohol or tobacco or anything else does?
Yeah.
So the LCB, like the liquor stores and the beer stores in Ontario are owned by the Ontario government. It's not like that all across Canada, but it's like that here. And the LCBO has come out and said, they're the perfect place to buy it because it's already a restricted place. You have to be 19 to get in and buy it. So, but I would rather have somebody grow their own weed than be put in a dangerous situation of getting it from a drug dealer or having to go down to a certain area of the city to get it. There are a few pot growers that are allowed to grow pot in BC, and because it's not like they're still in a gray area, so they're not protected really. So they get robbed all the time. Hopefully with new laws, the regulations, all this stuff, it'll be brought out and it can be used by anybody.
Before Prof gets started on that, what you're saying is the exact same thing that happens here in Pennsylvania, where I live now. If you want to go buy beer, it's actually state run. You can go to a bar. Is it? Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It's just liquor in North Carolina.
Well, it's the same thing here in Pennsylvania. You can go to a bar and you can buy a 12-pack.
Right.
But if you want to buy more than a 12-pack, you've got to go to a state-run facility, literally state-run, just like what you were saying, Dave. And then you can buy more, but it's really regular.
Socialists.
Yeah.
Can I?
It's not.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. It's been particularly bad today. I don't know why. It just happens from day to day. But if you're against legalization of marijuana, you just want people to suffer.
Yeah.
I am not even kidding, and Corinne can testify to this. I have real bad nerve problems. And like the only thing that gives me any kind of like relief is it's not even fucking smoking it. It's just ingesting it. Eating it, apparently drinking it is a thing.
Yeah, I made a tincture using green alcohol and just letting it sit for, a month.
Well, I have to say, I advocate more eating and drinking than smoking it. Smoking is not good for you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a silly question?
No.
In
Absolutely
the United States and in Canada, I'm not sure if Dave or David know, do you guys use cocaine for medicinal purposes?
Yes, liquid.
Nope, not here. Here it's very, very illegal.
So if you were to come into the emergency department in Australia and New Zealand, a doctor can prescribe cocaine for you. In the powder form, it's very, very good at stopping major bleeds, and it's great even in small doses for children as well.
No, the war on drugs put a quietus on that. We don't allow that.
It's very little that is legal in the United States. I mean, that just getting a plant pot legalized is tough enough. I can't see cocaine being out there anytime soon.
I think that there are some medical uses for cocaine that are allowed, but they're pretty rare.
Because in the hospital, we've got what we call down here called the DD cupboard, which is the locked cupboard for Schedule 1 drugs. And in the emergency department, we have cocaine that you meter out and you sign for it so that, like your morphines and all your other DD drugs, Schedule 1 drugs, there's a very close tab on how much is used and for whom, but it is available in the emergency department.
Well, I know that it is used. It's on the schedule it's on because it has a pharmaceutical use, but I'm not absolutely sure if it's used in America very often at all.
Right. Which is ironic because in Australia and New Zealand, pot is illegal and the whole medicinal pot conversation is quite active here. And I can never understand in my head why it's okay to use cocaine medicinally, right, and not to mention all the other opiates that are direct derivative from the poppy seed that we use on a daily basis.
Constantly, yeah.
Yeah. But for this particular one, it's totally not allowed. And I'm actually surprised that the pharmaceuticals in the US aren't lobbying the government, because that would be an absolute packet for them if they could get their hands on it.
Can I speak as to why marijuana is actually a Schedule 1 drug? I actually do know the history of that.
Yes, please.
Does anyone else know the history?
Reefer madness, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't it have something to do with it was actually hemp that the paper and cotton industry were going after because hemp was a superior... No? Okay, go ahead.
Nope. The reason why, back in the 1900s, well, I shouldn't say 1900s, the early 1900s, not, 18 whatever, back in the day, whenever we had, here in the United States, we had the freedom of the slaves, and we also had a massive influx of Mexicans coming from Mexico.
Mexicans are from Mexico? Holy fucking shit.
You're talking about Operation Wetback, right?
You're Mexican.
A little bit before that, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I said Mexicans coming from Mexico. I apologize. Spanish-speaking South Americans coming up into the United States. Because of the racism that was really evident back in that day, and, blacks and Mexicans really like to use marijuana.
That's
back
racist.
in the day, no, it's not. Well, white guys like to use it too. Haven't done it in quite some time, but yeah, you used to love it quite a lot. But anyways, they use that as a way to stereotype. I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen the marijuana menace and all that kind of stuff, the videos. They like to stereotype Mexicans and black people as using marijuana, and then they would go and either go really hyper and kill everyone, or they would come and rape white women. That's really the reason why, marijuana became a Schedule 1 drug, is because of the racism back in the 1920s to the 1950s.
Yeah. I can confirm that. Oh, I want to say we do use cocaine in emergency rooms and hospitals.